It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obuchi, thanks a lot for joining us. We did mark the 5th year of this presidency 2 days ago. May 29th used to be Democracy Day, but it's now June 12th. But it still doesn't take away the fact that it was the 5th anniversary of the President Muhammadu Buhari presidency. And unfortunately, because of all of the things happening around the world, there wasn't a lot of spotlight sort of to see what achievements have been made in the last 5 years, or even in the last year of the second tenure. Speaking of things happening around the world, of course, the coronavirus pandemic is still a big issue across the world. Most countries are starting to relax their lockdowns and trying to find a way around living with the virus. And it's pretty scary for a lot of people, especially here in Nigeria. The numbers are getting crazier. We had our highest daily jump in infection numbers yesterday, with Lagos in particular being a cause for concern. Most people are not sure how we're going to navigate the coming weeks with the sort of numbers that have been seen. Hopefully, we will get some sort of a message from either the state governor or the president is to guide Lagosians and Nigerians as to how we can hold up in these very, very difficult times. And besides that, I mean, there's a lot going on around. Besides the coronavirus, there's a lot of these riots going on in the United States with regards to race wars and the death of a civilian by a police officer. And we also had that case here in Nigeria. A young 16-year-old girl, Tina, was shot dead allegedly by a Nigerian police officer a couple of days ago in Bariga, and that has been quite a talking point for a lot of people, and it still brings up the topic about, you know, how security agencies will be able to dispense their duties without the constant clash with civilians. Hopefully justice is done in all of these cases. But we're going to be looking at the last 5 years of the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. I'm joined here by Leonard Ebute. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back, and thanks for being socially distanced from me. And joined in Abuja by Special Assistant to the President on Innovation and Entrepreneurship in the Vice President's Office, Ife Adebayo. How are you doing, Ife, if you can hear me?
I'm fine, Ebuka. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. Just start off with you, actually, because there's a lot of talk constantly, you know, about the president and the last 5 years. If you were to give a score, give a sort of a report, what would be the biggest achievement you would say the president has had in the last 5 years?
Thank you, Ebuka. So I think the president in 2015 campaigned on some cardinal objectives, right, which included anti-corruption, infrastructure development, social investment, right? And when you want to rate the president on each of these anchors, on each of these pillars of the campaign, I will say I'll give him an A on all of them. On infrastructure, in the last 5 years, we've seen the largest amount of infrastructure development that this country has witnessed since the start of democracy in 1999. We've seen legacy projects like the Second Niger Bridge, which hitherto had been on paper, is now coming to life. We've seen railways. We have the Lagos-Ibadan Railway, which we ready this year. We have the rail leading from Etape to Warri. We have the rail leading from Abuja to Kaduna, which has already been commissioned. We have the light rail in Abuja, which goes to the airport, which is already in use and already commissioned. So if I was going to give the president a scorecard, I would give him an A on all these things. Social investments, for example. We have a president that for the first time put together the most ambitious social investment program that Africa has ever seen, a $500 billion naira annual project to support people within, to support Nigerians that require social support of government. So we have Empower, we had the JEEP program which supported market women, we had the conditional cash transfer programs, which is currently giving support to over 1 million households across Nigeria, and has over 3 million Nigerians on the social register already. So I'll say I'll give the president an A for achievements so far.
to Nigerians is security or the lack of it, and there's still a cause of concern for a lot of people with regards to what's still happening in the northeast, parts of the south, and just generally a lot of these things are still a cause for concern, and of course the economy. His presidency was ushered in with a recession, and since then it doesn't feel like the economy has completely bounced back to where we can say, okay, things are starting to look up pretty well. What do you have to say on those?
So if I heard you well, you spoke about security and the economy. So on security, I remember very well 2014, 2015. In Abuja, you couldn't even go to church. In Abuja, you had security scanners, you had bomb scanners. I mean, we were all in this country when Boko Haram infiltrated Abuja and bombed even the UN building and the police headquarters. So in the last 5 years, we've made a lot of advancement. Flights resumed back to Maiduguri. Emirs of communities like Askira in the northeast, in Borno in the northeast, have returned back. I mean, I flew into Maiduguri a few times in the last few years without any issues. I've been to Yola uncountable times in the last 2-3 years without any issues. And these were areas before that were, that were considered very dangerous. So on security, I think the president has done really well. I think the Nigerian Armed Forces should be commended. I have a lot of friends amongst them who do this daily, who wake up every morning to ensure that they keep Nigerians safe. So if we're speaking of the Northeast, Camp Zero, the Boko Haram main camp and spiritual center in the Sambisa forest was taken over by the Nigerian Army. We have Nigerian Army directly inside Sambisa, which was unheard of before. We have the Nigerian government contributing largely to the MNJTF, which is a combination of forces of neighboring countries that have been affected by the insurgency. And Nigeria is paying the most in financial sacrifice to that body, and of course in also military sacrifice. So when you look at if you look at the news a few days ago, the Nigerian Army just received a few military equipment and vehicles from China. We have the arms deal that we've signed with Russia. We have the Nigerian Air Force that has the new Tucano jets that will be coming in from the United States by next year, and there are a lot of new aircraft acquisitions that the Nigerian Air Force has done in the last few years also. So for the first time, we get a government that has sufficiently given the right kind of support to our military, rather than flying in mercenaries from other countries to come and do the job for us. And when you also take a look at other issues, because people have complained about insecurity in other areas like in the Northwest, you find that for the first time we have a government that is looking not just at the insecurity but at the root causes of the insecurity. That's why the Vice President, for example, is leading governors of the various regions affected by farmer herder clashes to find permanent solutions to these issues. That's why you say the government has a lot of support also going to farmers, because many of these farmers have been affected by a lot of these things, and this helps to increase the banditry in these regions. And on the economy, we have a president that, when he took power in 2015, basically got a government that was literally living on a ventilator. Before we came into government in 2015, before President Buhari and Vice President Oshibajo came into government in 2015, the government was borrowing to pay salaries. But the president, and the VP leading the economic team has been able to stem the tide, and we were able to bring Nigeria out of recession by the government putting forward a few fiscal responsibility policies, like the TSA, for example, that ensures that we're able to know everywhere government money is.
Okay, Ife, I'm going to come back to you because I want to chat here with Leonard, who I'm sure you've heard a lot of what Ife has said there. Big talk about infrastructure developments that he believes the government has embarked on, but also believes that with security and the economy, it's a complete A. What's your reaction to that?
I think that was a ridiculous scorecard. Let me impose a caveat here that I speak for every other Nigerian that is not a party person. I do not represent any other party interests. I represent the average Nigerian on the streets. And to say an A is merely disregarding the reality on ground. So let me start from his talk about investment in the social security, social enterprise, social objective goals of government. Yeah, maybe a lot of money has been put there, but you have to match that investment to outcome. If you say the government has invested in social impact initiatives, how has that impacted poverty levels in Nigeria? Nigerians are far poorer now than any time in the history of this country that we didn't have a war going on. And that's fact. So if you say you have invested, I cannot question that you put some money, you had a budget, you executed that budget, but then the outcome of that budget is more poverty. It tells me that there is a mismatch. It's either that the money got missing in transit, or didn't get to the people, or didn't get to the people in the manner that will have the desired impact. And net, it is a wasted investment. Similar for when he talked about security. I mean, for God's sake, it is okay. Boko Haram is no more taking territory. Hooray. But Boko Haram kills more people now without taking territory than when they had territory. When you talk about security,
have the facts for this.
Yes, yes, they have. It is true that Boko Haram was occupying territories, and they no more occupy those territories. But it is also true that the spate of killings attributed to Boko Haram hasn't diminished, even though they no more take territories. It is also true that we've had more kidnappings and armed banditry in Nigeria during this administration than any time in our history. We talked about the herdsmen situation. We talked about cattle rustler situation. These were alien concepts, not alien in the sense of it, but these were not widespread wars taking over people, ordinary people, taking over communities belonging to other people for generations. You know, that's an aspect of insecurity. Kidnapping, even criminality, non-violent criminality like Yahoo and all of these things. These are all, this gives you a sense that when the hunger increased, insecurity also rises on the civil side. And when the people on the other side feel empowered to do so, they begin to agitate and they move into actions like the Fulani people, the headsmen of Fulani extraction have also done. There's a lot, I mean, we can have that argument back and forth. When you talk about the economy, that's the most ridiculous assertion with respect that my counterparty on the other side mentioned. Before 2015, if you measure from 2010 to 2015, the average GDP growth for Nigeria was 6%.
But isn't that always as attributed to the fact that oil was priced differently than it is now?
I'm not even talking about as it is now. So I just gave you a nearly 5-year, 6-year window, right? 2000 and let me even start from 2009 to 2014. The average was 5%-ish. As at 2015, it was 6%. Guess what? In July of 2016, it dropped to 4%. And if I'm kind enough to remove the recession period, the 3 quarters of recession that we had, the average under Buhari administration still trends below 3%. But if I add the recession
that to the
period,
oil price, which is what the argument usually is, that there was more oil in abundance, the price only got to over 100 at some points in the years you mentioned.
The argument for oil as it impacts on government revenue, yes. But the argument for oil as it impacts GDP, no. The service sector in Nigeria accounts for over 50% of GDP. Agriculture is 23%. The composition of oil in GDP is low. So if you are saying that by virtue of certain policies, you have increased productivity in many other sectors of the economy, it should dampen the impact on GDP. Okay, GDP impacts your revenue, oil impacts your revenue, no problem. And that is part of the structural problem that this government set out to solve when they came in 2015. That's part of their promise, that they are going to create a structural system that reduces Nigeria's dependency on oil as a source of revenue. That has not happened till date.
Let me hear from Ife. Ife, I think the one thing that everybody can agree with, which is the poverty, the numbers of the increase in numbers of poor people in Nigeria, which comes from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, a very credible organization, which I also believe the government believes in. You can't necessarily take that away from the big larger conversation. Whatever is happening, whatever policies have been made, like he said, Nigerians have never been this poor before. How do you reconcile that?
So there is an MBS, there is data to show that Nigeria has a high number of poor people, but that data was data measuring, I think, from 2010 to about 2013 or 2014. It's not data of this current government. And that's why when this government was campaigning in 2015, one of the cardinal objectives of the government and one of the key pillars of the campaign was social investment, which is to reduce the number of poor people. So one of the first things we did, of course, was working with the World Bank to set up the social register, which currently has records of about 3 million Nigerians. About 1 million of these Nigerians are currently receiving 5,000 naira monthly from the government. The president, after the COVID-19 pandemic was declared a pandemic, actually said that the register be increased by an additional 1 million within the period, so that we can increase the number of people that are receiving these funds. And with all due respect to my friend speaking with you in Lagos, you know, it's a different thing when you speak, you know, with emotions and when you speak with data, right? The data shows that there were poor Nigerians from 2010 to 2015. That is the MBS data. Now, this government in the last 5 years has instituted the constitutional cash transfers. We have the school feeding program that is feeding 9.9 million children, supporting over 100,000 cooks. We have the Anchor Borers program that is supporting millions of farmers. We have the fertilizer, the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative, which has reduced the cost of fertilizer for farmers from about 11,000 to about 5,000. So we have a lot of things that have impacted on the general populace, and I'm very confident that the new data that the NBS will be releasing on poverty, we will start to see the effect of all this.
First of all, if I need to come in here, first of all, I don't think it's right to say that this data ends in 2013. Every Nigerian knows that the NBS released data. It must have been 3 or 4 weeks ago, stating clearly much more updated figures, which put the numbers at over 80 million. I think it was about 84 million Nigerians. So I don't think it's fair to say that anything represents up until 2013. Secondly, moving forward, I mean, we'll have 3 more years of this presidency, hopefully at least. What do you see happening in the 3 years coming?
Well, in the 3 years coming, I think there's going to be a lot more focus on expanding the social investment of the government and the impact it has had on Nigerians. There's going to be completion of a lot of the infrastructure projects. The second Niger Bridge, for example, which has been on paper before the coming of this government and only became an active project when this government came, is scheduled to be completed in 2022. We have the Lagos-Ibadan Rail project, which will be completed by the end of this year or early next year. So I think the next 3 years will be spent consolidating on all these things. And then we have all the military acquisitions that we'll be expecting over the next few months and the next few years. We also the military equipment that the Army received recently. Also, I think the next 3 years is going to be spent consolidating on the various initiatives that the government has done. And then when you look at key things that the government...
Sorry, let me just come to Leonard. Leonard, are you hopeful?
Sorry?
For the next 3 years, if this is the focus area for the next 3 years, then no. Because obviously, the economy does not live on air. The entire world is there's a global downturn. Nigeria is in very, very deep recession now, and the outlook for Nigeria is to be in recession for another 3 to 4 quarters. So if the focus of this government is to build rails and build infrastructure, then they are a bit disconnected from the economic reality of not just the entire world, but of Nigeria in particular. Now, the thing is this: we are not just in a recession. We are in what economists would term a stagflation. It means that productivity is negative, unemployment is rising, and inflation rate is rising. So this combination of three factors gives you it. So to jumpstart this, right? To jumpstart this, you need to activate at least one of the components. The main one is productivity. So you need to activate productivity. Now, this is a government that is broke. Like we pointed out, that oil is no more there. So you do not have the resources to activate productivity on your own. You need to depend on the private sector. And so if he was talking about things like a tax rebate to the manufacturing sector to spur productivity in that area, things like reducing the VAT level so that individuals can, making Nigeria a better investment destination for domestic investors, reducing the interest rates, NPRE they did to 12.5%. I think it should be down to not more than 5%, because in Europe it's negative, in America it's like 1%. You know, chasing those economic fundamental policies that we change significantly and radically one of the fundamental components of the equation that I talked about earlier to give growth. But if this is what this government is going to be doing the next 3 years, we are going to go into a depression in the next 6 quarters.
We're going to go on a quick break now and come back and hear from Ife and conclude this conversation about what the way forward is for Nigeria. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We're looking at the last 5 years of President Muhammadu Buhari in office, and I'm joined by Ife Adebayo in Abuja, Special Assistant on Innovation and Entrepreneurship in the Vice President's office. Before we go, Ife, we have very little time. I just wanted you to get your word in, because you were talking about infrastructure, and for a lot of people, like he said, it's pretty curious to see how roads would be the answer to jumpstarting an economy that needs to be jumpstarted almost immediately. Besides the fact that the economy wasn't looking as great as it should be, the virus has come, the pandemic has made everything even worse now. So what should the government be doing in the short to medium term?
Thank you, Ebuka. So I'll first like to just clarify something. So you had said that the new NBS data says we have more poor Nigerians. That's actually wrong. NBS data in 2004 said about 54% of Nigerians were living below the poverty line. The one that came out focusing on previous years before this government said 60%, which was a rise between 2004 and 2015. And the latest report actually says 40%. So which means this government has brought down the numbers of people living below the poverty line from 60% to 40%, about 20% drop, which is the effect of the efforts of the government in social investment and other things over the years. And then to your question on the response. Of course, you know, it's not an either or. You need infrastructure. So you're supporting agriculture and you're not building access roads, then you're going to fail. So we have iron ore in Itakpe, for example. You're not building the rail that leads from the iron from the mining places in Itakpe to the port in Warri. Then it's an absolute waste. But I will address the points he raised, which is about what government is really doing. Just last week, the Vice President heading the economic sustainability, the post-COVID economic sustainability team, released some new standards that is supposed to support SMEs. So NAFDAC, for example, is reducing their rates. I know that last year the Corporate Affairs Commission reduced the rate for companies to register and also made it possible for companies to register their companies online. We have the ease of doing business reforms that the government has embarked on and has been very, very efficient. Nigeria has actually risen 39 points on the ease of doing business index of the World Bank. Over the last 5 years. We have the MSME clinics, which is a program led by the Vice President, a presidential program led by the Vice President that brings all the bodies together that need to support MSMEs. We have funding. Funding is a key part of whatever anybody wants to do. And so you have the CBN, for example, has a creative sector fund that's supposed to support the creative sector. The Bank of Industry has given over 400 billion naira in loans to small and medium enterprises.
All right,
over the last few years. We have the Development Bank of Nigeria, which was also set up in 2017.
Like I said, we don't have a lot.
I can go on and on with these things.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I have to cut you there because, like I said, we really do have to run here. And before I move to him, I know it's easy to use percentages, but we're talking number of poor people, and I don't think that's negligible. We're talking humans here, not percentage numbers. But let me come to you now. You can't neglect infrastructure, can you? And you have to give that to this government.
No, you can't. But let me clarify something with the numbers you threw around. The good numbers. See, the important statistics is the number of people falling into poverty per minute. In Nigeria, that is 8. That is the highest. I've not even checked in the post-COVID Nigeria. That is the highest it has ever been. It means that every minute, 8 Nigerians fall below the absolute poverty line. That's the kind of statistics the people in government need to be looking at. Okay. The escape rate out of poverty. Yeah, you cannot ignore infrastructure, and infrastructure is good. But the core of economics in a capitalist system which we operate is that resources have to be in the hands of entrepreneurs, not of government. This is a government that has retained exactly the same structure we had before they came in, where it is a rentier system. The government gets everything and distributes to sectors it chooses, instead of creating systems where individuals are able to access
We need to go.
So you talked about SME loans and all of these things. Why is it streamlined to sectors? Why is it not attractive to some?
Unfortunately, the debates about the government and the economy will always be very passionate, and we have to cut it here. But we'll definitely come back because, like, we have 3 years of this presidency still to go. Hopefully, we'll have healthier and happier things to talk about in the years to come. Thanks a lot for joining us, Leonard, and thanks to you in Abuja. We have a lot more to come. Please stay with us.
Comedy is at the heart of Nigerian entertainment, with new acts coming out every day with multiple characters that quickly gain the love of fans. On Rubbin Minds, we chat with a comedian whose fandom has grown so immensely and would like to know how it started, how he got here, and what is to come.
Let me hug you. Kai! Gbogbo gbà yẹn, a ní ká fẹ́, ká fowó tún ẹ ṣe, ká gbé ẹ sókè.
I've married the man of my dreams.
Is it dead or alive?
Yeah, but what's that? Are you okay?
Mo ń bèrè ni, tó bá jẹ́ ká step in.
Step in where? What are you doing here? This is my house
I
now.
just acquire this place now.
Neighbor. We are now neighbors.
Yeah, there. You are doing well.
You are doing well. Hello, well back.
We must say, Mr. Macaroni is doing well.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome back. Yes, I have a comedian, Mr. Macaroni, here with me, who is doing very well. You have to start with us.
You are doing well.
All right.
All right.
Did you intentionally make that a tagline, or did it just happen?
It just happened. And then I noticed that from the first video in which I said it,
People picked up on that.
Everybody said, you are doing well. Meaning that I used the line while doing something I'm not really supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you're doing well. And then everybody's like, I do. So I had to keep it.
We saw a viral tweet a couple weeks or months ago where you put out a DM, I think. You had sent to Don Jazzy, I believe?
Yes.
Tell me about that story.
So it was the days of, I was in school.
Days.
Yes, I was in school back then. And then, Don Jazzy is known for his very beautiful heart. Yeah, and I mean that, So I just like that day, I tweeted at him, and then I said one or two things. Then he retweeted, and I made an error, and then he retweeted, and everyone was catching trips. Then I slid into his DM, using the opportunity, and Baba, foul, I'm hustling, I want to do one or two things, I need some money. Then Jazzy then said, okay, as things be, let me send you small change. Asked me the small change. He said, I think it was 150,000 at that time. So he just sent me 150,000. I'm like, okay. BB Boat 5. That was when Boat 5.
So you went to buy phone.
Wow. And
so at that time, were you aspiring to be in comedy? You were just a student having fun?
No, I was just a student. I was acting already. Doing acting, any kind of acting,
So were you doing Yoruba movies, or what kind of movies?
English, soap operas, Yoruba movies. It was just acting for me. Till now, it's still acting. Yeah, I see myself as an actor. This comedy thing, it's just like, this is the in thing. I'm like, okay, I'm an actor that should be able to interpret every role that I come across. That's the orientation for being an actor. So I said, okay, let's try this. If this is not working out.
So you were working as a student. You finished school. Where did you go to school?
Okay, the university that I finished from is Redeemers University.
Redeemers University.
Yes.
So you finished school, you started acting, and then when did you do your first skits?
My first skit was 2019. Was it June or July?
Yeah. What made you?
2019.
Did you have something prepared, or did you see something that said, you know what?
No,
Or was it the money? Because there's always been talk about the fact that Instagram skits and comedians
it wasn't the money.
Are getting paid a lot.
No, it wasn't the money. I was frustrated. I was tired of, auditions every now and then, doing movies and all of that, but it wasn't forthcoming. It was just like I was repeating the same thing over and over again. The roles were not coming in. I'm like, okay, let me start this. It's acting, right? So let me just avail myself the opportunity to always be able to present my art.
Yeah. So at what point did the money start coming?
At this point. At this point,
Yeah.
you know, so now, glory to God, you know, we're out there, everyone's, you're doing well.
Yeah.
So people want to put their businesses out there, they want you to advertise for
What
them.
was the first skit that you felt like made you sort of known?
Known.
At what point was that?
That skit, I think it has to be the one with Sheila.
Okay.
That really, there was one before it.
Yeah.
It was the one I was playing with one girl who I said was, I was the one taking care of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then with the one with Sheila, a lot of people really loved it.
Yeah.
You know,
When was that?
When was that? I think that was, well, no, not January, maybe December, I think.
Towards the
December,
end of last year.
yes, towards the end.
So a lot of what has happened in the last like 5-6 months.
6
really.
months, yeah.
Does it scare you how quickly things happened?
To be honest, yes. To be honest, yes. Because, I know, I've always known that by God's grace, I would attain the heights I want to and even beyond. But when all of this started, it was just that I'm like, God, what's happening?
Yeah.
So, yes, I was overwhelmed, you know, but we're managing it.
So when you started the skits, did you have a long-term plan or were you going to do one-off skits?
When I started, I was like, you know what? Anytime I feel like
I would just create
acting,
something.
I would just create
So
something.
the outfit was already planned because this is your agbada and your...
I didn't even start with that.
You didn't start with that, okay?
I didn't start with that. I was doing normal, regular lover boy story, different things. In fact, I started with old school teacher kind of vibe, then young boy doing this and that. Yeah. Then the idea for this daddy one just came. It was just one. The one I said, the girl, young girl, then I was touching her some kind of way, and then she slapped me. So a lot of people really liked that. Then the girls started to say, yes, those irresponsible men, this is how they do, this is how they... So I thought, okay, people like this.
Maybe this is a theme
so I started to intentionally create content around that character.
Is it one agbada or did you have many agbadas in that fabric?
I actually have about 3 of those.
Okay, so at least we can be changing it.
Right.
You play, I mean, your role is almost like this unfaithful husband who
Right.
constantly is trying to cheat or,
Yes.
you know, did you worry at any point that, okay, this might affect you with maybe certain brands who might not stand for that?
Yeah,
you know?
Oh, well, I always say that my art form, my work is to intentionally, it tells you a story and it teaches you a lesson. I intentionally do not allow the man to enjoy those things. You see that at the end of almost every video, he suffers. It's either he sent money and he can't actually do, or his wife comes and he can't really do anything. Yeah. So it's because I want to teach you something. I want to teach the men to, you know, just hold body. And so I thank God I've been working with brands. Have you
lost any sort of gigs because of that?
Because of that, no. In fact, I think they come because... In fact, sometimes I create content that does not even have to do with freaky, or those kind of things. And then they tell me they want they want that. Yeah. They want me to create something around that because I'm doing some another content, the in-law series, that doesn't even have anything to do with freaky. It has to do with my daughter always bringing bad men home. You know. Yeah. So
a lot of your colleagues run into trouble.
Right.
You know, with certain skits, especially with what you're talking about, when it has to do with the male and female gender, you know, about crossing certain sexual lines and all of that. You've managed to stay away from that. Do you ever worry that, okay, I hope I'm doing the right thing? So do you run things by anybody, maybe from the opposite gender, to be sure that, okay, these things, I'm not saying the wrong things, I'm not doing the wrong things? Because like every other week, we hear a comedian who's done something, either sort of debasing women or you know, stuff like that. Do you have to run things by somebody?
Well, I thank God. I'm a thespian. I actually read theater. So, and Ahmed Yarima, my teacher, Professor Ahmed Yarima, taught me that drama must teach, it must entertain, it must inform and educate. So I'm conscious about that. I don't want to offend anybody with what I'm presenting to you. Rather, I want you to take something away from it. So that is constantly that it doesn't have to insult, it doesn't have to demean anyone. It just has to come out good. And then, of course, I have a group of friends, Mr. Macaroni and friends. You know, so sometimes when I have some content I'm skeptical about, I throw it to them like, what do you think about it?
Yeah,
Right.
but there are comedians who believe, I ask that because there are comedians who believe that everything can be joked about as long as it's a joke. Do you think there's a line? There are certain lines you definitely should not cross. And when you see comedians cross those lines, there's a belief that maybe if comedians called them out, they would understand better as against we who are not in your industry, because they believe that, oh, I mean, I'm just joking. But if a comedian says, okay, do you feel like you guys are also doing enough to police each other?
Well, I would say that, when you drop content as a content creator or an actor, or however, it's not really my place to say what I feel. I'm not going to criticize your work in that line. In this part of the world, people see criticism as maybe I don't like you. So I can tell you, especially when I know you, I feel something is off. Yes, but because I've come to realize that people have different ways by which they want to submit their art. And then, because we all know that art should be criticized in which ways, people should be able to say, this is what I think about it, this is what I think about it. But because maybe some just feel anything goes, okay? Maybe anything goes. But because maybe some of us too are concerned that not everything can go. Let me say that, for instance, about everything being a joke. If I want to show you infidelity, it's different from I just want to show you. But if I want to correct infidelity, I will show you the infidelity first and then correct it.
Show you a lesson at the end.
Exactly. So I have a problem with showing me infidelity and doing nothing about the infidelity.
Almost like a glorifying it.
Exactly. So, or showing me maybe rape, right? But if you show me rape, teach me never to rape anyone again. Right. So that's how I say.
That's great. Where did the name Mr. Macaroni come from?
It was on set, face to face. So far back, I was just on set, and then the character did not have any name. It was an extra. So the director was like, upcoming guy, extra. Hey, you, give yourself one name there. So I was like, Mr. Macaroni, at least. I just said Mr. Because
so it has no history or anything. It just came out.
No, it was. I just got the vibe. Mr. Macaroni, jolly good fellow. Yeah. So it should go.
So how much do you charge per skits now?
Well, we thank God. Let me say it varies.
Okay.
It varies.
Like what's the range?
What? Let's say. Don't let me say.
Come on. You don't have to give a specific number, but what sort of the...
Because, I don't want to misinform. So, right...
They're not misinformed, just say it.
There are a lot of factors to consider. When you come to us and you say you want us to do something for you, we want to know what it is that you want us to do for you. And so
everything is negotiable?
Everything is
negotiable. But you are doing well.
But
is the most important thing.
By the grace of
Is your Nollywood career sort of suffering because of this, maybe? Do you still have time to do movies?
In fact, I did something yesterday.
Okay.
Yes. So I think this is even helping.
Okay.
So more people want to work with me now, and of course, I don't really have the time because I also have to attend to this. This is what, by God has used to, put me out there, so I can't let it suffer.
Finally, this Jack Bada you wore, is this from Banky's wedding? That was the actual from Banky W's wedding.
No,
it looks like the hats and the...
Right.
It looks like the complete...
I wasn't even there. I wasn't even
No,
at
was
the
that inspiration?
No, it wasn't. I used it for my birthday shoot.
Oh, okay.
Was it last year or last 2 years? So when I thought about the daddy character, I just picked it up and then I wore it and okay. Then the next day I was to be in Fowler's video.
Oh, okay. I thought it was. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank
all the
you.
best. All the best with everything. I'm a huge fan, and I'm rooting for you all the way.
Kai.
We'll take a break now. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. I'm joined now virtually by T-Boss. T-Boss, how are you doing? Can you hear me?
Hi, Ebuka. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's been quite a while. Hope you're keeping safe. At least I'm sure you are with your daughter.
I am.
Yeah. A lot has happened through the lockdown. You celebrated your first Mother's Day as a mother and celebrated Children's Day for the first time as a mother. How were those for you?
It was fine. It was a very interesting feeling. Like I am part of the club now, the Mother's Club, and I have a baby.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. I can't exactly tell you that I did anything spectacular. I mean, we woke up in the morning, baby gets dressed up, New children, they have so many nice, colorful things. So I'm always so excited to dress up my baby. And then I went for ice cream for me. Okay, so I can give it a the booty. And I went for a walk in the park. Around my estates,
Yeah.
but we didn't do anything spectacular because we're trying to stay safe and the whole social distancing thing. So, yes,
Yeah.
we're not
Very,
really
very.
doing too much.
Very, 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 very important there. But I want to talk to you about, your entire journey, because you started off with a rumor, oh, she's having a baby, she's not. There was all of these stories at the time. How was it for you? Especially because, we've seen a lot of the social media drama that has come with you constantly defending or having to even defend your child and your motherhood as a whole. How has all that been for you?
It was really annoying at first, and that's because first of all, there's millions of people who see me and have an opinion about how they think I am or how they feel I should be. Do you get? And I live in Abuja. I don't live in Lagos, and I was constantly going out in Abuja. I was supposed to be on bed rest because I had a very hectic pregnancy. But I wasn't. I was actually going out, and people would see me and they want to take pictures with me. Oh my God, Tubos, you're pregnant. I'm like, yes, take pictures, but just from here up. So people in Abuja knew that I was pregnant. It's people outside the city who didn't know. And then they constantly, oh, she's very fat. Could it be that she's just putting on weight? Oh my God, she's pregnant. Who is she pregnant for? Blah, blah, blah. Who did I not hear? They're giving my child so many baby daddies. It's annoying, but I've actually come to the point where I'm not even interested in defending myself anymore or explaining. I don't feel like I should even explain anything to anybody. I know what I know, and the people around me, the people I love and care about, they know the whole story. So why do I have to explain to people who do nothing for me,
Yeah.
then just have a negative opinion? So I've just left them to come up with whatever news they want.
Knowing our society, you must have expected a lot of these questions and criticisms or whatever it was that came with it. But were you still surprised about how intense it was?
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah.
I've been out of the house for a couple of years, and I thought there would probably be something more interesting to focus on than me and who I had a baby with. But they came at me like full force, and it's kind of, my fan base has always been in the middle. It's like the amount of hate is kind of equivalent to the amount of love I get. So it's like a lot of people are excited. A lot of people are like, why? Who did she have a baby with? Oh, I know, because she went for an event with this person. It has to be this person or that person. I'm like, okay, can you kind of chill out? If you were to know who it was, I would have told you myself. But since you don't know, then it's obvious. You shouldn't know.
Moving on from that, how are you coping? And your child is growing. Things are getting a lot more exciting, I want to believe. How different has it been for you going from T-Boss, the single lady, to T-Boss now, who is responsible for a whole human being?
It has been the most amazing journey so far. I'm still just at the beginning, but you have daughters, so you know how amazing it is to look at your creation. It's like, oh my God, this is me, but with her own character, her own personality, it's.
Hello, T-Boss. Can you hear me? Fortunately, it looks like we've lost T-Boss there, but she was talking about her. Okay, T-Boss, are you back? Can you hear me? Oh, yes, I can hear you. Go on.
Yes, I can. Sorry, I had a call come through.
Yeah, sorry, it's fine. That. Yeah, so.
Okay. So it's really interesting to have a a whole person that I'm taking care of, and I have so much love that I want to share with her. You know, I want to. This is a case of do what I say, don't exactly do what I do. You know, I have so much I want to share with her and teach her, and the responsibility is really scary because I don't want to raise. I want to raise the best person ever. You know, I want to raise a generation of amazing children, and the pressure sometimes is hard, is much on me, but I'm very hopeful. I mean, I shower my baby with so much love. I think I'm on the right path. I think I'm doing very well. Very, very
Very,
well.
very, very good to hear. Considering the sort of, for want of a better word, you know, considering the sort of stigma sometimes that comes with single motherhood, you know, there's a belief, especially in these parts, that to have a child, you must be in a family unit, you know, husband, wife, child. Going into this, was it a deliberate sort of, I'm going to do this regardless? What was were you conscious of, you know, sort of what would come with it?
Um, okay, yeah, I have lived in Nigeria a lot. I've also lived in Europe a lot, in different countries in Europe, and it's not so much of a stigma abroad. You know, I mean, in the countries where I stayed, there are lots of single mothers with lots of children. You know, but here in Africa, or should I say Nigeria, yes, it has to be according to them the right way is daddy, mommy, children. Yeah, but that didn't happen for me. And I am a very, very proud single mother. I love being a single mom. I don't have to fight with anybody that my baby is going to say daddy or mommy first. Okay, my baby has said mama already, and I am very happy about that. I don't feel weird when people ask me, this is a choice I made. You know, I'm not, I mean, we're getting older every day, so I chose this path, and I absolutely love it. I don't feel strange at all. I don't feel like it should have been the other way around. No, it is what it is right now. I can't be focused on what would have been or what's going to be. I'm going to enjoy the present right now. And I am having the time of my life.
That's the spirit, and that's what I like to hear. But before we go now, what's happening with T-Boss? What's happening? What's new? What should we look forward to? Anything at all?
T-Boss woke up in 2020 with a lot of brilliant ideas. I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, I wanted to travel, I wanted to experience so much with my daughter. And then the pandemic hit us. And I'm not going to lie to you, Ebuka, right now, I'm just trying to stay safe and just focused on being alive for tomorrow. I can't worry about that when eventually this pandemic goes, because my uncle actually has COVID. He's infected, you know, and his wife as well. And these are people we stayed with in London, me and my daughter, when we traveled, you know, over the holidays. And I have about 4 to 5 people who are presently infected by this virus. So I am like, okay, I can't think too far. I can only focus on right now. And right now, T-Boss is T-Mama. I'm just taking care of my daughter right now and enjoying my baby. I'm enjoying this new role, these new responsibilities. We'll focus on life and everything else if we survive this pandemic.
Yeah, that's good enough. I mean, sometimes people ask me, oh, Ibuka, how are you doing? I said, I'm alive. And I feel like that's the most important thing these days. Please stay safe, and congratulations and my love, of course, to you and your daughter.
Thank you. Thank you, Ibuka.
That's our show today. Like I always say, you can follow the conversation on Twitter at Rubbin Minds now is the handle. Please use the hashtag Rubbin Minds. You can also please continue to stay safe wherever you are, socially distance, and stay alive. I'll see you guys next Sunday.